Okay. Okay. Grief is a funny thing, isn't it? The way it travels around the body, poking from the inside, pushing out, coming at you from the side door, coming in all different angles. You know, since Tina's physical passing from this earth in January, we've all been carrying this grief. You've all been carrying this grief. It's been grief. It's been mixed with joy. It's been mixed with gratitude. So thank you all so much for being here. Tina would be so happy to see you here today. Really, we're enormously, enormously thankful for having you join us today. I'd like to thank some people who make everything possible here at Shakespeare and Company. Our Board of Trustees, and especially our Chair of the Board, Bev Hyman. His tenacity in moving everything forward is really unwavering. I'd like to thank Mike and Annette Miller for their long time, undying support. I'd like to thank the person who brought Tina up to this part of the world, Mitch Berenson. Thank someone who really kept the dream alive for Tina and the rest of us, and that was Elaine Bernstein. I want to give a shout out to the Bernstein family, and especially Donna Bernstein, for keeping the dream alive. We're all about community here, and I want to thank State Rep Lee Davis for being here, Senator Paul Mark, Smitty Pignatelli for being so supportive, and Governor Deval Patrick in the back there, ladies. And I want to thank especially the MCC for their undying support, and Sarah Glidden, who's also here today from MCC. Really, really extraordinary, that level of support. You know, Tina, as you all know, was a study in contradictions. She could be fierce as a badger in debate and soft as a pillow when you needed comfort. I mention this because, you know, we all came together back in January, immediately after her passing. We were all in a large measure of shock. So I'm repeating a couple of the things I said then, mainly to amuse John. You know, the thing about Tina, as you know, she was a walking paradox. She created a dialectic everywhere she went, and she invited the opposites. She invited that level of engagement. She challenged us all to lean in to whatever was happening. You could see her leaning in. You know, as a result of that, she had this extraordinary magnetism, and it attracted a group, a large group of talented, dedicated misfits. That one was really for John. And it wasn't, I mean, it was just that, I mean that in the best sense of the term, right? Misfits. It's just that a lot of folks, they missed the fit. And so they made more. I missed my fit. So I grabbed that energy that was being offered here, like so many of us. So then what is our responsibility now? Now that Tina has left us physically. What does the mission say about what must I do? To gather that energy that she created and the momentum that she cheered on. You know, it struck me when she passed, and I mentioned it once before, but, you know, I imagine us all on a very large sailing vessel together. It's a beautiful day, the sun is out, we have a fresh breeze, and you know, a lot of these big sailboats, they call them fortuna, for good fortune. But I feel we owe it to Tina to do it for Tina. So the name of our boat is Fortina. Purple the sails, and so perfumed the airs were lovesick with them. The poop was beaten gold. I just wanted to say that. We all know it's poop deck. It's not actually. Anyway, for her own person, we all know she beggared all description. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to introduce Tina's son, Martin Jason Adams.
Hi. Thank you for being here, and for you people out in the tent there, hi, you guys, and people streaming, hi. I'm just going to read something. Yeah. Let the heavens echo, she is dead. Her footprint was so big. We'll celebrate her genius as we sit in a small part of it, the Tina Packer Playhouse, where the text shall be spoken with the relief of the diaphragm, allowing the breath and thought to drop in, and then turned into vibration through the whole body with the speed of thought released and given to the audience like a gift, so every word cannot but connect. Even if they don't quite literally understand it, they can't help but vibrate with it. Whether the weather be hot or whether the weather be cold. Mum and I shared a similar sense of wit, humour, wicked wit, albeit mine was a bit more vulgar and very often a defence mechanism. But she would always laugh at my quips, which made me happy, as a lot of people don't seem to get them. She had an absolute love of rhetoric and language. That was her marching band. More determined than the ocean, taking back the land, she set in motion her imagination's grand master plan. With Shakespeare's words, she would force the world to see a reflection of themselves, asking themselves, what is a man? What is it to be human? To those who said, you can't, it's too grandiose a plan, she simply replied to them, why don't you just help me, because I will and I can. The theatre is a place where we speak the truth, not pretend. Here's where we speak the unspeakable. And don't we all feel it when we do? Especially in Shakespeare, in his text, and in life for that matter. I find Shakespeare extremely boring if it's not brought to life with the whole body's vibration. With the history of each word found in the body, if I can put it like that. That was an expression Tina used to use, if I can put it like that. I fear that covering and lying and acting are winning over the truth once more, eroding our intelligence and our human connection. So on my mum's behalf, I challenge each and every one of you to not fall back into that non-revealing wish-wash, but expose your souls to everyone in the theatre, and take this gift Tina gave us with courage, with passion, with love, with determination, with all your being, and live it, and pass it on. All who crossed paths with her, and some who didn't, were profoundly touched and blessed by her understanding and passion for depth. I get lovely cards from folks that need to tell me so, and my true white and blue hardcore Berkshire hillbilly friends have taken down their walls for just a second to tell me, I really liked your mum. She was the best. I felt like I could talk to her, like she had interest in what I said. Whether you were at the top of your game or still trying to find your way, she would shift and touch your soul. A shift that didn't drift away but stayed. You knew now, no matter what, your outlook on the world had changed, and hence your life. One would look at oneself and the world differently. People longed to be in her orbit, to absorb her spirit, her intuition, to claim they knew her, worked with her, were her friend. They would be her servant, just to be in her presence. I observed people shake with nervous energy when they met her, and then be laughing with ease, and wonder 10 minutes later. She could listen like no other. She had the charm and the skill of language like Don Juanos or Cyrano de Bergerac. She could retain so much knowledge in her head, albeit it was not always the exact facts. Every other day I noticed there was a new book by her bed, and I actually haven't inherited a house. I've inherited a library instead. She could and would demand of you everything you wanted to be. She'd get right into your blocks, digging in and untangling your knots, so you were free to make more. Some folks thought that she could be a little tough or even mean, or that she preferred men. Well, what's wrong with that? Some, of course, don't know the truth. Discovering even Richard III is a big part of them. They'd rather show how they can act and twist the corners of their fake moustache. Or they really want to claim their power, their voice, their soul, so they could be felt and heard and seen. Now, friends, that can't be me. She felt intensely and yet would always maintain control. She could move mountains with her determination and the twinkle in her eyes. But she could be hurt, bullied, shamed like anyone else by those who couldn't or didn't understand her methods, terrified of what she'd be asking of them. When an actor was in one of her Shakespeare plays, demanding that you free your voice, imagination, whilst pounding on your chest, saying, that's it, let it go. Now give it vibration, have courage, face your fear, enter your trauma, and put it into Shakespeare's words. They'll support you. There was none of this, oh, you're triggering me, avoidance. But with the founders who helped develop this work, it would give our patrons the experience, seeing reflections of themselves on the boards, inviting them to take a deeper look into their psyche and their consequences of their actions, to have a profound effect on people. This is what brought people to Shakespeare and Company, and this is why people worked here. Not for a job, not for work, They worked here for the work, for what we did, what we represented. She was a genius, a lover, a fighter, a beautiful force of nature. Herself, a Shakespeare player and a great actress. She was a gift to this earth, and everyone who met her knew it. She was my mother. I walked in her shadow, and I couldn't be prouder. I freely proclaim I was a mother's boy, with no shame. My relationship didn't come easy, though. I was placed in boarding school at 7, and I didn't really have a mother until I was about 11, and by then my rebellion level was up to a 10, and good luck with that. It was Shakespeare that fixed our relationship. When she played Gertrude to my Hamlet, during one show, I said Hamlet's line, "You are my mother, would it were not so." And she came storming across the stage. And with an open palm, she smacked me so hard in the heart, it literally knocked the wind out of my body. That scene was intense. We pretty much forgot we were on stage. And what a great feeling. It was so much fun. Anyway, once backstage, I asked her why she had hit me so hard. And she turned and she looked me dead in the eye. And she stated, "Because you meant it." We looked at each other for a few seconds and then we both burst into laughter. We had spoken the unspeakable. And what a relief it was. And what a gift Shakespeare had given us. We got to truly speak our griefs and show our love for each other. And be fucking good while we were doing it. If I do say so myself. How strange it is to be without her. What if a storm comes? I'll be without my anchor. Life doesn't and won't feel the same now she's gone. I have no others, no daughters, no sons, no fathers. For the first time I'm alone. But I like to write and be left alone, so I'll be fine. Don't try and fix me up with anybody. Nobody's going to tell me to go to bed anymore, as Tina did when I recently moved back to take care of her. "Mum, for fuck's sake," I'd say, "I'm 50 years old. I'll decide when I go to sleep." "Well, when I go to bed," she chuckled, "I want everyone else to do the same." "And stop saying how old you are. They'll figure out my age." "Well, that doesn't matter anymore, does it, Mum? By the way, you were the greatest one. I couldn't have had a better mother. I know you had so much more you wanted to do and discover. I'm glad you didn't think you were going to go quite yet. You would have been really pissed off." Hey-ho. I'll tell you what, for fun, I'll read the last to-do list. I found her last to-do list. She used to write them all the day, or every day. Maybe someone here will get some of it done for you. I'll certainly try to keep your work and dreams alive in everything I do. And I hope you guys in charge of this company will do too so. And if you're still confused what the work is, I can explain it to you. I've lived and taught it for 30 years, so feel free to ask me. I would love it. Let me just finish, though, by telling you one story, because it's what I'd like to have at present. Let's just say my father was a very difficult-tempered, controlling man for this story. So my mother,
She ran away with me from my father when I was 3. He tried to go after her, but when he got to France, she had preempted him and gone to Spain, and finally he gave up. Well, months later, when she had gathered enough courage to return home and not let him persuade her to go back with him, they were talking in the kitchen, and my father, in frustration, looked at my mum and pleaded, "What is it you want, Tina? What do you want?" And my mother stood up. She picked up a nearby butcher knife and she pointed it at him. And with total conviction, she said, "Power! That's what I want! Power!" My father, in his response, said he nearly shit his pants. And said, all right, fucking hell, I won't get in your way. You can put the bloody knife down now." And that's how she won her freedom. Anyway, the to-do list. Give Marty J shopping list. I must convince the board. Alan, we are not just a theatre company. To be a theatre company, our work ethic and training are at the core of the company, the community. Prove work is stronger through multiracial casts. 4, have a discussion and a workshop with following: Carol Gilligan, Bessel Van Dam, Kevin Coleman, Jim Gilligan, Tina Packer, Stephen Wolford, Alan, if he'll do it, Courtney Vance, Kaya Calhoun, Jake Way, JTT, Kenny Ransom, Samania Levine, and then, which was funny, in a different ink, so it was obviously later put in, also asked Marty J. Typical afterthought. Must do director's workshop. I've got to get directors to start getting back to the text, to the voice, to movement, to personal connection, to dropping in. And the last 2 are my favourite. Pluck chin hairs. Try get doctor to give me more Oxycontin pills.
Wherefore I know, lost all my mirth, forgone all custom of exercise, and indeed it goes so heavily with my disposition that this goodly frame, the earth, seems to me a sterile promontory, this most excellent canopy. The air, look you, this brave o'erhanging firmament, this majestical roof fretted with gold and fire. Why, it appear nothing to me but a foul and pestilent congregation of vapours. What a piece of work is a man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculties, and form and moving, how express and admirable in action, how like an angel in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. And yet to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Man delights not me. No, nor woman neither. Though by your smiling you would seem to say so.
So I'm Simon, Tina's cousin, and I didn't really want to go after my other cousin here as it's a little bit the short straw. But then actually when you look through who I could have gone after as other options, none of them are great. I may as well get it over and done with. So Cyril, nice one Cyril, you can put the first picture up. I'm going to talk a little bit about our family. And the first thing I'm going to do, all sort of by way of talking about our family, is I'm going to read Tina's cousin, Julian. Brother. Tina's brother, Julian, wrote something for me to read out. So this is from Julian. These are Julian's words. Thank you for inviting me to this celebration of Tina's life. You knew Tina as an adult. I knew her as a child. I'm her little brother, Julian. I was born when Tina was 6 years old. I'm now 82, and I'm still her little brother. I'm going to talk about her grandparents, her parents, her older sister, Jo, her education, and her environment. The pack of children were Jo, Tina, Nick, and me. Tina's first influence on my life came when I was born. She and Jo were devoted readers of Enid Blyton's famous Five. Thank you. Enid Blyton in the house. Whose male heroes were named Julian and Dick. Thus, I became Richard Julian. 3 things about this. First, books were a feature of our house. Both Jo and Tina read widely and eventually became writers, following their father's example. Second, our parents encouraged the girls to share responsibility in family decisions, guided responsibility that developed into leadership. And third, the famous Five had 2 female heroines equal in authority and passion to the males. Women of will, perhaps. Our family was what was known as upwardly mobile. England was, and still is, very class conscious. Our parents worked their way from the working class into the lower middle class through education. Our father, Eddie, born in 1908, was the third of 4 children. His father, Tina's grandfather, was a stretcher-bearing pacifist, killed sadly in the First World War. Dad's mother raised the family alone. It was a tough childhood. Dad rarely spoke of it, but when he did, he was always close to tears. Dad's hatred of evidence and his Quaker-like philosophy came from those experiences. Our mother, Phyllis, born in 1906, came from equal hardship. Her father, a locksmith, rarely worked. Her mother took in washing to feed 4 children. I remember our mother describing how the family lived in fear of the workhouse. Education was her escape. She won a scholarship to train as a teacher. So you can see that Edith is on this side, and these are Edith's 3 daughters there. So I'm not sure which one is Phyllis, but it will be one of the 2 younger daughters there. And we can guess, and we can try and fact check it. In that genetic line, you may recognize Tina's fortitude, resilience, self-reliance, courage, a love of literature, a belief in gender equality, a hatred of violence, and a determination to reach for the stars. Jo, Tina's older sister, had a powerful influence. 2 years older and fiercely independent, Jo was passionate about horses, so Tina was too. Jo went fox hunting before school, so Tina did too. Jo decided against university, so Tina did too. They chose to travel the world instead. They got as far as Paris, where Tina fell in love with the bohemian way of life. Jo carried on through Africa, Australia, and finally India, where she worked with Mother Teresa long before the world was paying attention. Though their adult lives diverged, both shared a passion for living and a fierce sense of justice. Post-war Britain played a large part in shaping Tina's personality. It was a time of austerity and rationing, but also of ambition, when a democratic society decided that everyone deserved access to medicine, schools, universities, and housing, paid for collectively. It was also a time of integrity. I remember as a 12-year-old in 1956 how deeply shocked the country was when Prime Minister Anthony Eden lied to Parliament. You may see where Tina's strong integrity and left-wing political instinct came from. Tina's early schooling was traditional, the 3 R's, morning assembly, Bible stories, hymns, and a quiet assumption that God was an Englishman. The world order was safe. If you detect in Tina a respect for the conventional alongside her independence, her primary school planted that. Her secondary school, a Quaker boarding school, was different. Here there was sport, here there was Shakespeare. And here was an education that encouraged questions rather than answers. I believe it was here that Tina encountered the Socratic method, learning to engage rather than argue, and to lead discussion through questions rather than indoctrination. If you have ever felt in conversation with Tina that she was drawing your thinking out rather than pushing her will in, I suspect that's where this process began. I do wonder sometimes if her attraction to Dennis was his Jesuit education. I wonder if she would have enjoyed a rabbinical school. I wonder how she would have got along with Mary Magdalene. Thank you for your time. I know that Tina loved you all, respected you all, and grew with you all. She will always be with you. She is always with me. Give Marty the support he'll need. Julian. Julian's watching, so say hi to Julian who's watching. I'm going to add... Hi, Julian. I'm going to add a very quick postscript about our family, two things that I think are fun. Cyril, if you'd like to go to the next slide. So that is Thomas Perry. That is our grandfather. And Thomas gets a bit of a bad rap in the family, I'm not going to lie. But he came from a family of locksmiths. And the interesting thing to note is that, as it relates to Tina, I think, one of the locks on the safe, the lock on the safe of the Titanic, was a Perry lock. It was made by Thomas Perry and Sons. And when they brought up the safe, which had obviously gone down in 1912, they brought it up in 1988, and the lock still worked. So I think, as it relates to Tina, I think, you know, something that's founded by one of these ancestors 50, 100 years after they're dead. Let us all hope that this thing that she's built still works. And then I'd just like to add this one in as well, because this is a bit of naughty family history. Go to the next one, Cyril. So, one of our reputed ancestors, and of course we're running out of people who can sort of fact check this, but certainly my father, George, who was one of Edith's children, obviously, George believed this and passed it on particularly to his brothers. My mother's always been a bit sort of a cynic of this story, but my dad loved the story, Tina loved it, and we love the story. The Tipton Slasher was none other than William Perry. And in 1850, he became the pugilist bare-knuckle champion boxer of all of England. And he won that fight after going 70 rounds, and they only stopped the fight because it got dark and he couldn't fight any longer. And again, as it relates to my cousin Tina, it's only because it got dark that she stopped fighting. But we can all fight on her behalf. Okay, and the next photo I just included because it's just a beautiful photo that we found in the family archives of Tina. And obviously, Tina has been a huge, one of the biggest influences in my life, and I appreciate in all of our lives her ability to make you feel like the most special person was, I mean, second to none. I've never experienced anything like it. I turned up on her doorstep, actually it was Diane Vaughan's doorstep, in 1989 with a broken heart, and she's been putting me back together ever since. And I took so much from Shakespeare and Company over the years, including one of Coleman's cars, including Mary at one point as well. So, it's the gift that keeps on giving in many ways. And the last slide, Cyril. So this, of course, is Edith's granddaughter. And this is Edith's great-granddaughter, who is my daughter, who is here somewhere. Georgia? There she is. So the ever defiant Edith that raised these daughters, raised Phyllis and Rosa and Marjorie to be this absolute sort of pillar of defiance as we all know, great story about that knife. My daughter would recognise that story as being perfectly reasonable behaviour. She'd be like, what's the big deal? But we were told by the school that she had some sort of, sort of disorder or something like that, and they wanted to call it sort of a defiance disorder. And so she was sent off for tests, and eventually we spoke to the psychiatrist who said, no, there's nothing wrong with her, she just knows what she wants and she's going to get it. And just to end very quickly, when I called Tina and told her that, she said, good girl. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Bev Hyman. I'm Tina's friend and chair of the board at Shakespeare and Company. When I was a little girl, once in a while, I felt frustrated that human beings couldn't fly, that I couldn't fly. I was frustrated at being grounded, unable to soar. Maybe you felt the same way when you were a kid. Some of the rare and very special times in my life I felt like I was flying were times I was having dinner with Tina Packer. No matter what subject we broached, most of the time it was about Shakespeare and Company, but also about theater, about art. Tina expanded, no, she exploded our exchange. So I felt myself lifted up on the ceiling and the walls of the room blown out. Just one example. For Tina, our education program wasn't merely worthy of expansion in the Northeast United States, but nationwide, worldwide. And she and Kevin took the program to Israel successfully. Right now, we are inspired, formalizing the materials to put them on our website and make them and teacher certification available throughout the country. Tina gave me the chance to use my skills to ensure the legacy of her creativity, her originality, risk-taking, unconventionality, so that legacy will endure. There were two other things I admired particularly about Tina, and they're connected one to another. No surprise, I found her acting, directing, her lectures and books sublime. I came for the first time to see her productions at the Mount in 1982. I felt that I was encountering a new Shakespeare, accessible Shakespeare, Shakespeare for everyone. Tina understood the audience-actor relationship like no one else. And surely, in part, that grew out of her scholarship and her art. But underneath that was her deeply felt commitment, like Shakespeare's, to our shared humanity across class, across race, across religion, across nationality. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? I think the king is but a man as I am. The violet smells to him as it doth to me. Anyone who was close to Tina understood her deep well of empathy and her egalitarianism. I felt through my 8 years on the board, the last 3 as the chair, that Tina expects me to do nothing less than work to ensure her legacy. It's a privilege. She was a woman. Take her for all in all. I shall not look upon her like again. I miss her.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am Smitty Pignatelli, lifelong resident of Lenox, and I was introduced to Shake & Co. many, many years ago, nearly 50 years ago, as a very young boy. And my first impression was a little bit awkward, to be honest with you. I was tagging along with my father as an apprentice electrician when Shake & Co. was down at the Mount. The first time I got there, I see these quote-unquote misfits running through the woods, carrying wooden swords and cardboard shields, speaking a language that I had never heard before. It was English, but it was Shakespearean English. But I quickly learned at that young age through my dad how valuable this organization was to our little town of Lenox, and the impact that they had not only on our community, but on the Mount. For those of you who were here that remember when it was at the Mount, Hillary Clinton gets a lot of credit when she was a sitting first lady that visited the Berkshires. Her bus broke down on the way to the Colonial Theater in Pittsfield on her Save America's Treasures tour. I was on the Board of Selectmen at that time. We convinced her to come to Lenox to visit the Mount. That was the catalyst for that complete restoration of the Mount here in Lenox. But I would argue with anybody that if the Mount wasn't occupied by Shakespeare and Company all those years prior, I'm not sure if the Mount at that point would have been salvageable. So the fact that this organization was keeping that little building alive, we owe you so much for the restoration of that beautiful property. And when I became a selectman, I realized how valuable the creative economy and Shakespeare and Company was to the Berkshires, and the impact and the large footprint that it had on there, all through Tina's vision of what it was doing. And on a personal note, when my daughter, a painfully shy little girl in high school, who I found out years later was bullied in high school, and maybe that's why she was so shy, I brought her down to the Riotous Youth Camp. I owe Shakespeare and Company the success of my daughter, who now is for 10 years is working in television in Hollywood, California. That little girl, that painfully shy little girl that I dropped off on a Monday to come to the Riotous Youth Camp, I said, what happened to her? When I picked her up 2 weeks later, when she's performing on stage outside, I said, oh my God. The Riotous Youth empowered young people to express themselves, to build self-confidence. She got involved with the Fall Festival as well throughout high school. And her success today, I really attribute to Shake & Co. and Kevin Coleman and Tina and their vision and their passion for doing greater good for other people. And then when I got to the legislature, and I retired 2 years ago, last year, after 22 years, and I'm really quite honored to be even included in this beautiful tribute today. We recognize how valuable the creative economy was for the Commonwealth, and the impact it's had on the Berkshires and the Commonwealth as a whole. The Cultural Facilities Fund, which is appropriated billions of dollars, and we've seen billions of dollars of investments to match those dollars across the Commonwealth. that idea came from the Berkshire delegation. And the colleagues and the former colleagues that are here today, they're continuing that good work to feed the beast, to pump that engine going. And I'm embarrassed to say that actually, I'm proud but embarrassed that we are still the only state in the country that has a cultural facilities fund. So we've been ahead of it for many, many years. To be very honest with you, I wish I wasn't here today. I'm sure many of you feel the same way. I wish Tina was still here today. Yeah. But we have an obligation to continue her legacy. It is so strong, it's so deeply rooted. And when I look at this campus, we also owe that to Shakespeare and Company. Growing up in this town, this was the Lennox School for Boys. For decades. When they went away, it became the Bordentown Military Academy. Not many people remember that. When they went away, it became a very religious organization for many, many years. But it was such a valuable piece of property in the heart of Lennox that the town officials were very concerned about what the future of this property was going to be. And then we had the idea, what about Shakespeare and Company? And look at where we are today in the Tina Packer Playhouse, making Lennox vibrant, making our creative economy vibrant, and keeping the Commonwealth and her vision and dream alive. I'm honored to be here. God bless you all, and may you rest in power, Tina Packer. Thank you for all that you've done.
Hi. My name is B.H. Barry. Oh, boy. Wow. Well, it all started with Tina, John Broome, Kristen Linklater, and myself. In the beginning, we were like the four musketeers with Tina as our D'Artagnan. So here I am, the last man standing. Well, it's 1971, or was it 72? Well, anyway, I was teaching theatre combat at Lambda in England, and I got a message. Could I come and help the director who was working with foreign students and to help them stage the blinding of the Duke of Gloucester in a production of King Lear? I knew how to do this, but what I didn't know was that it would be the beginning of a lifelong friendship. I've been working with directors at the Royal Shakespeare Company, mostly young men from universities, very serious. And this was a time when directors were becoming more important than actors. When I walked into this rehearsal room, this young lady director seemed to be having so much fun working with the actors on her project. Her enthusiasm was infectious. Needless to say, I had a great time grouting out Gloucester's eyes, and so did she. Tina loved the theatricality of the moment. We got on like a house on fire. Well, this led me to becoming a part of a company that was to train actors in the art of playing Shakespeare. We were going to work on a production of Taming of the Shrew that was going to be performed in America. Now, that group were going to be to do this with the same group of students from Lambda that had worked on Lear. Tina called the group Shakespeare and Company. This is 1972. We were to go to Waterford in Connecticut to the Playwrights Conference and perform a play there. My friend, R.H. Thompson, the talented Canadian actor, was a member of that group, and he's here in the audience. I had a premonition. I came up to see Tina 2 weeks before she passed. And I called RH and I said, I'm going to go see Tina. And he flew down from Toronto and we came up and we spent time with Tina. So 2 weeks before Tina passed, RH and his wife Laurie and myself visited Tina and a great time recounting the past. Over lunch, I watched as Tina remembered those early days and the years flew off her, like she became the Tina I'd known in the 70s. Tina called me and asked me would I come and be a part of an adventure to train Shakespearean actors in America. She had been teaching at NYU and invited some of her students to join her at the Mount. This had to be somewhere around 1976 or something. Originally, the pursuit of Shakespearean comedy was to help talented American actors perform classical Shakespeare. So with this in mind, we'd invited some famous actors to join us for a workshop. Richard Dreyfuss, Chris Sarandon, Christine Lahti, and 3 English actors, Peter Firth, Gillian Barge, and Nicholas Clay. They were part of that group. It was very successful. Well, due to one thing and another, this progressed us into giving general intensive workshops to pay for the upkeep of the Mount. I made many transatlantic trips, and on one trip, I put this in, I don't know why, on one trip I had my one and only ghost experience. It was winter. It was freezing cold. Dennis Krausnick, a student from NYU, had turned down the heat in the house to save money. So I decided to light a fire in one of the rooms. I collected some wood from outside and powered the kindling, got the paper, and I couldn't get it to light. The match wouldn't light. And then I heard from behind me, "Open the flue, you idiot." I turned around. There was nobody there. I shut the door, and I think when I entered the room and left it, I went a lot quicker than I'd just come in. Well, anyway, I told Tina what I'd experienced, and she said without missing a beat, "Oh, that was probably Teddy, Edith Wharton's brother." Now, I tell this story because Tina never questioned the imagination or questioned any outrageous statement, no matter how far-fetched. She was always supportive, and she was generous and loyal to all those who were around her. She's enabled many people in this room to have jobs in the theatre, and I'm proud to be one of them. Lastly, I'm a big fan of the book The Little Prince. I quote, "All grown-ups were once children, but only a few of them remember it." Tina, if you can hear me now, you wonderful, beautiful, and brilliant child, keep those intensive worships going. Oh, and say hi to Will for me. See you later.
Here's neither bush nor shrub to lay off any weather at all, and another storm coming. Ah!
That was Tina's direction. A few of us are very lucky to have worked at the Mount, and some of us have even had agriculture aspects of the Mount named after us. And there's was a bush there named the Clown Bush, which was named for me. And for that I am very, very proud. And I am also proud to have followed one of the great founders of Shakespeare and Company, because BH was instrumental in bringing a wonderful energy and aggression clothed in love. It's been said before, so I'll be very quick about it. There was a duplicity, or I should say, there was the opposite of things at Shakespeare and Company. Kristen called it Apollonian and Dionysian. That there was going to be, in Shakespeare and Company, a pedagogy, a structure, something that we could always hook into and that was the text. And then there was also the Dionysian, that which was the euphoric, the lateral, the unforeseen. And that was it for us, because we were charged with holding both at the same time. And there were meetings at the Mount. And every Tuesday there would be this meeting, and we would have to talk about what was going on in ourselves and each other, and the shortcomings of ourselves and each other. And one of the things that we kept on talking about was the next step. What is the next step, Tina? And we would talk about Tina's inability to block a scene. And she never addressed it. And she'd end up crying, and we ended up being upset, and we let it go, and then we would do something called thrash it out, which was in rehearsal the mixture of Apollonian and Dionysian. And we were trying to figure out what the next step is. And I was thinking the other day that the next step is in front of us because of what we've engendered for us, but also for people like that little shit Hamish Linklater, who could end a rehearsal like that. Kristen would jump, and also a little boy named Finn Whitrock, who would run around in a Superman outfit, and others, Rory Hammond, and some amazing children who were immensely talented. Hamish would give me line notes on Twelfth Night. I was playing Malvolio, and he would have memorized my goddamn role, and he would give me line notes at 8. And anyway, I'm very happy that that Kristen never took my advice and beat him. But the one thing I am, and I'd like to close by saying some lines that are about us, because we are the next step. Art thou afeard? Be not afeard. The isle is full of noises, sounds, and sweet airs that give delight, and hurt not. Sometimes 1,000 twangling instruments will hum about mine ears, and sometimes voices that if I then had waked after a long sleep will make me sleep again. And then, in dreaming, the clouds, methought, would open and show riches ready to fall upon me, that when I waked, I cried to dream again.
Hello. I'm Noni Pratt, and I was a founding member of the company, along with Natsuko Ohama, who was also a founding member of the company, who wrote this poem right after Tina died. Tina. Okay. Night's candle has burnt out. And of course, she was always jocund day. So how can it be? Her smile, a pile of rumpled laundry crinkling up the sky, the crackling cackle of her laugh overtaking her being, slipping into the water slide of her care and intelligence. Her anagram was panic taker. So she was, and a giver. No one like her, sparkling, bumbling, curious, vulnerable, sexy, brilliant, fallible, glorious. An area of consciousness, a restless O, and the imagination. She willed a bunch of us into being. So we have our remembered flashes of moment of the unknowable. Tina is gone. She was a one born to change life. She changed our destinies. She made a world that is remarkable. And you are all a part of this world. Everyone who was in front of her was her priority. Over many years, she invited each and every one of us in to add our particular part to the mix. Who comes to a new country with not many connections, very little money, and in no time starts a multimedia, multinational Shakespeare company with a brilliant co-founder, Kristen Linklater, along with masters of movement, clown, fool, text, and fight? Who woos a Jesuit priest to become her lifelong partner in the pursuit? Who finds a derelict mansion with interior walls of frozen ice and in just 6 months has a troupe of designers and actors come from far and wide to work day and night, rehearsing, plastering, weeding, cooking, and living in that building together and performing Shakespeare under the stars? This troupe of actors gathered in a circle every cloudy night, silent and together, willing the rain gods to hold off until the show ended, a prayer-like request. Edith Wharton was really alive to Tina, and she got personal strength and reassurance from her. May we, in our lives now, feel Tina's love and confidence likewise. I can hear her voice saying, "Bloody hell. Look what we did. Look what we still are doing."
Pretty soon I'll be down. Before I start my comments, I have to make a brief comment about Tina, and this does not count in my 2 minutes.
No, definitely.
2 minutes. Rocco gave me a memory that I just have to bring up again. I was chairman and working with Tina. We'll get into that. And we had an opportunity after we were on this property to sell part of it off. We actually had, I don't even remember, around 60 acres of land and a bunch of decrepit buildings. And if we put this sale through, we would have gotten back most of the money that we paid for the property. So anyway, we were in conversations with the buyer, and there was one building that Tina wanted to keep. It doesn't make any difference which building it was, but one building, and I went to a final meeting with her about that, and Annette said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "We are not going to keep that building. We're going to sell it." Okay, good luck. I went to the meeting, came back in an hour, and Annette said to me, "How'd you do?" I said, "We're keeping the building." I said, she said, "How come? You were so adamant." I said, I looked at Annette and I said, "She cried." Annette retorted, "When I cry, it doesn't make any difference." And I said, "You're not Tina Packer." Okay. I'm going to start with a question. How does one squeeze a 31-year, exciting, tumultuous, creative, nerve-wracking, and glorious relationship with a woman who was fierce and funny, bold and brilliant, a visionary, a genius, one of the most fascinating people I had the honor of helping in some small way realize her dreams in a 2-minute talk? The simple answer is, you can't, and I won't. At 91 years of age, time has a different meaning to me. 2 minutes can be 4 minutes. My name is Michael Miller, husband of Annette Miller, who is an actor with the company, who you know a lot better than you know me. But anyway, 35 years ago, we bought a home in Lenox. And one day, Annette came home from a rehearsal and said, "Tina Packer has invited you to come to a board meeting." I smelled trouble and said, "No way, I am not joining any theater company board. You're the theater person, and I'm a lawyer and a businessman." To make a long story short, I went to the meeting. And I went because Annette said to me, "When Tina Packer requests you to come," it's not a request, you go, it's a demand. Anyway, I went, and let's see, find my place. What I witnessed at that meeting was a vibrant theater community, a family under the spell of a leader whose organization only needed some help with the business aspect of theater. It is the business of theater. And that was the beginning of 31 years of involvement and commitment to Tina and Shakespeare and Company. Tina and I became close friends and allies. Her morning greeting to me when she called was, "How is my comrade in arms?" It always gave me a special lift. Let's see. 3 still comes after 2. Where's 3? Oh, yeah, thank you. Our best collaboration, and we did a lot of things together, and the most significant in our 30-year relationship was the acquisition of this property after the Edith Wharton restoration. The owner of the Mount told us that when our lease expired in 6 months, we would have to leave the property, the Mount. It's a long story about, and you can ask me later about the why the ownership was broken up between the theater company and a restoration company, and that was done by Tina. Basically, she knew that theaters didn't always succeed and wanted the Mount to be able to keep going if the theater died. Anyway, at that point, I was chair. Tina and I went on a search to find or build a theater company in the Berkshires. That was a problem. We saw all kinds of properties, and every one of the towns wanted us, but it involved millions and millions of dollars, as you can imagine. One day we were driving by this property, Kemble Street, and I said to Tina, "Who owns this? It looks like it's unoccupied." She said it was owned by Dick Clark and the National Music Foundation. I asked her to call the caretaker to see if it was for sale. Tina disapprovingly looked at me and said, "Michael," she called me Michael, "in the Berkshires, we don't interfere with other people's properties. If somebody's doing something, we keep away. This isn't like Boston." I said, "Just ask her. Do you know her?" She said, "Yes, I know her." So Tina went and had tea with the woman, and they jumped all over her. They were in big trouble. The Commonwealth had given the foundation, the Music Foundation, $2 million, and the money sort of disappeared. And the new administration at that time went after the foundation. They were starting to bring criminal charges, and anyway, it's a long story, but after extensive negotiations, we purchased 62 plus acres and several decrepit and really decrepit. You want a description of decrepit? The big building that when you walk in, the school, the old school, there was grass inside in the lobby. Anyway, we purchased this for $2.5 million. After the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which was started as a foe, didn't know whether we were part of any conspiracy, and there were cults. Some of you know there were cults in here, and they didn't know anything about that about Shakespeare and Company. But once they were convinced how legitimate we were and how important we would be, they waived repayment of $2 million that was owed them. Well, we then went on. There was an old gymnasium building. These numbers. There was an old. Thank you. Yep. Maybe I should have started writing this last night. There was an old gymnasium on the property, and believe it or not, it was a Quonset hut. It was this building. With the help of our brilliant architect, George Marsh, who's here today, Tina, myself, and we decided that would be this would be our first theater, and we converted it in a very short time to get it ready for our first season into what became the Tina Packer Playhouse. When I approached her about naming the building after her, she got angry with me. And she said, with horror in her voice, "Michael, are you telling me that I'm going to pop my clogs?" I had no idea what she was talking about. She continued, everyone knows buildings are only named after dead people. Anyway, we convinced her, and this is what we have, which is one of two beautiful theaters, 3 outdoor theaters. One of them, which was named a few years ago, was one of the top 10 in the United States. And went on to build, of course, this beautiful campus, which we're building, with help from so many people. So many people in this room have helped us in so many ways, board members, Bev, who I convinced, and she's never forgiven me, to become chair, and Alan, of course, who is a dear friend and one of the hardest workers I've ever met, and is responsible for a lot of who we are and what you see. But anyway, I said that. Okay. A few days before she passed, Tina was at our home for dinner to meet some new people in the community. She held court, as always, charming, witty, and informative about what Shakespeare meant to the world. Before she left, and she had driven herself, she pulled me aside and said, "Michael, I've written up some new ideas. I've been thinking about them for a long time, and I'm going to send them to you before I pop my clogs." Well, Tina, I hear your laugh. I see the twinkle in your eyes, and you have to know that your clogs made footprints in the sand. We feel your presence. We hear your voice and are guided by your creative wisdom in every corner of this campus and beyond, and in a very special corner of my heart. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Mark. I'm the state senator for Lennox and 56 other communities in Berkshire, Franklin, Hampshire, and Hampden counties here in Western Massachusetts. Thank you. Which is the best county in the state. And I'm also honored to be the chair in the Senate of the Joint Committee on Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development. And what an amazing lineup this has been. What an inspiring event. I'm really grateful that Shakespeare and Company asked me to join and to say a couple of words from a couple of good friends in government who wanted to send along some well wishes for Tina and her family. This first person is actually a real advocate and a real champion of the arts. I've actually seen her at events all over the state. Tina's long list of accolades is long, but her commitment to using Shakespeare as a vehicle to ease into difficult conversations was truly extraordinary. Her skill at pushing actors, students, and audiences to engage deeply with the questions of what it means to be alive today forced all of us to grow. Generations have come to know and love Shakespeare because they had the opportunity to see or to work on her productions. As one of the many theater goers who had the great privilege of reveling in Tina's remarkable work, I am hopeful that her legacy will inspire millions of young actors, directors, and educators to engage with theater as a way of engaging with life. And that was from U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren. And then another tribute from another good friend in state government. Massachusetts is deeply grateful for the life and legacy of Tina Packer. Through Shakespeare and Company, Tina helped shape the Berkshires into one of the greatest arts destinations in the country and introduced generations of people to the power of theater, literature, and storytelling. But what made Tina so special was not just her talent, it was her ability to make people feel welcomed, inspired, and connected. She believed the arts should belong to everyone, and she dedicated her life to opening doors for young people, students, performers, and audiences across Massachusetts and far beyond. Her impact on the Berkshires and our state is impossible to measure. Millions of people have been touched by the community she built, the performances she created, and the opportunities she gave others to grow and thrive. On behalf of Massachusetts, we are sending our love and condolences to Tina's family, friends, and the entire Shakespeare and Company community. Her legacy will live on for generations to come. And that was from our governor, Maura Healey. And I want to say, especially to Governor Healey, words of elected officials are important, and they're important especially in this moment, but actions speak even louder. And I don't want to assume anybody's politics, even though I think I can assume Tina's. But we're in a moment where the arts and culture are under attack. Not just lost a partner, but under attack from our national government. And so I'm really happy to mention that our governor, Maura Healey, in a year of tight budgets and cuts across the board, that the Mass Cultural Council is going to be funded at the highest level in state history. And I'm also really happy to report, and Governor Patrick can tell you this never happens, the House and Senate went along with what she proposed. And so it's important to say that this doesn't happen by accident. It happens because women and men like Tina and the organization that has been built here have touched people across generations and across decades, and that the impact in our community here in the Berkshires is felt throughout Massachusetts. And because of that great work, because of the inspiration it has driven, it is very important and it is very easy for those of us in office to support funding for important institutions like this. And so I have a friend out in eastern Massachusetts, and he said to me once, you know, the greatest tribute to somebody is how many cars is in their funeral and how long they tie up traffic. But I think an even better appreciation of how much somebody's life and how important they were and how much of an impact they had is the community they create, the passion they display and inspire in others, the work they have done, and the legacy they are going to leave. And I think there is absolutely no doubt that the legacy created by Tina and others in this community through this organization will last for many years into the future, has had a positive impact on the Berkshires, and has made our community stronger. So on behalf of our state government, thank you to Tina and to Shakespeare and Company.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Aspenleader. June 30th, 1993. Month-long intensive, check. Tina Packer. Whatever you do, Elizabeth, don't leave your country, your husband, or your family. I've spent over half my life here since then. It's the best mistake I've ever made. Thank you, Tina Packer and Dennis Krosnick and all of you. This is my family, my home, and I'm so grateful to be here. I have some words from some of Tina's very close friends that I'm going to read to you now. Two English girls born humbly around the same time. Me in the south, you in the north. At 11 years old, we both passed the exam that put us in schools where we had to wear uniforms and study Latin. 5 years later, on my last day, I walked dutifully home and dumped my satchel of books on the kitchen floor and said, "Well, Mum, that's it then." Then I looked forward to technical college, where I was going to learn how to be the world's best shorthand typist. Meanwhile, Tina, on your final day at school, you dumped your school uniform in the nearby river, and then you boarded the next train to Paris. And you told your mum, "I'm going to be an artist." And an artist you were, and so much more. Coincidentally, we found our way to the Berkshires the same year, 1974. Me at a weekend house, you at a mansion called the Mount. How I discovered it, I can't remember, but for me, the Mount was the costume shop, which I visited almost every weekend. The magic, the energy, the enthusiasm, the dedication, the toing and froing, and then out of nowhere, this raucous, dirty laugh. And there you were. And this is where I say there's a hole that will never be filled. And I find there are no adequate words to describe you and what you've given to all of us and the world. I wish I could have one more cup of tea with you, so I could tell you once and for all, what an inspiration you are. How loved, how tenacious. On your voice, Elizabeth. Okay. Funny, respected, courageous, and creative you are. Forever, I will have that sublime image of seeing actors appearing and disappearing. I can't see. In the trees at the Mount. I wish I could arrive just one more time from Marshall's with an outfit I think would work for you really well. Making sure it was white or gray or black. I did sneak a navy in there on you once, but you were suspicious of it. We didn't wear navy at RADA, dear. I would try to express the depth of my feelings as best I could, but I suspect it would end with your saying, "Put on the kettle, love, and let's have another cup of tea. I want to tell you about these ideas I have. There's a play I've commissioned on Mumbet, and I want to do a month-long intensive for female directors. And I've got a thought about the training. You know, that's the heart of the company. It's what sets us apart. And did I tell you, I've just got Den's book published? And I would put the kettle on, smiling and honored to be making you a cup of tea." Jane Iredale, one of Tina's closest friends. One more. I was lucky enough to have met Tine before the company was established in Lenox through NYU School of the Arts. I saw her raw, rosy-cheeked spirit and knew she was a kindred soul. She saw my Greek ethnic face and said yes to become one of her players in the Berkshires. I made her laugh. She called my humor cheap. And we both understood the unspoken feelings and sacrifices it took to love each other fiercely. The Berkshires will forever be colder, with her mighty heart dimmed. We'll always carry her with us and sing her song to those reverberant hills. Love you, T. Your Puck. Founding company member and former artistic director, Tony Simotis.
I dreamt there was an emperor, Antony. Oh, such another sleep, that I might see such another man. His face was as the heavens, and therein stuck a sun and moon, which kept their course and lighted the little O, the earth. His legs bestrid the ocean. His reared arm crested the world. His voice was propertied as all the tuned spheres, and that to friends. But when he meant to quail and shake the orb, he was as rattling thunder. For his bounty, there was no winter in it. In autumn 'twas, that grew the more by reaping. His delights were dolphin-like. They showed his back above the element they lived in. In his livery walked crowns and crownets. Realms and islands were as plates dropped from his pocket. Think you there was, or might be, such a man as this I dreamed of?
Unparalleled. Shakespeare had it right. Alas, unparalleled. Tina Packer. We were best friends. That death has her now is still, in a daily way for me, unfathomable. Tina, where the fuck are you? I would text during those last weeks, "Are you still alive?" And she would respond, quote, "Barely." And then sending lots and lots of love. Our friendship, we met each other in the most interior places of what might seem our very different lives, and also in the public that we each in our own way encountered. It was a friendship without impediment. And I think I speak for both of us when I say that it took us both by surprise. The closeness. Inspire, conspire. We inspired each other. We conspired with each other. We were collaborators, both believing in the voice, in having a voice, in women having voices, in making a difference. Walking along the road, as Tina would put it. When we were both in the Berkshires, we walked together every day. 3 miles in the years before COVID, down Red Rock, up the short hill on West Center to Austerlitz Road, and then up the long hill on Austerlitz. Halfway up, we'd stop. Because by then we would have come to the gist of whatever it was we were talking about. The Shakespeare play Tina was directing, Women of Will, following the feminine through Shakespeare's women characters, her new project, the director's workshop, the film center she envisioned, the scene from the novel I was working on, and, being girls, the relationship puzzles we were trying to solve, the knots in relationship we were trying to untangle. You who know Tina, you know that her perceptions, her insights, and her intuitions were brilliant, and her knowledge far-reaching. She was, to put it simply, amazing. And her energy, her determination, because here we are, the world of Shakespeare and Company that only Tina could have created. And for me, lucky me, the everydayness of it. Walking every day, Tina coming into my house with her call of greeting. No knocking, no doorbell, just coming in. And like sunlight, brightening the day. After Dennis died, she often would have dinner with Jim and me, and always a riveting conversation. With Dennis, the four of us would have supper on Monday nights, the sounds of the summer loud outside the screen porch, and again, the conversation. And as my granddaughter Max said, Tina and Dennis were unmatched at the game of mafia. I miss this dailiness. I miss the intimacy, the ease, the conversations, the collaboration, the sense of being in it together. I miss Tina's voice. I retrieve it from my texts, scrolling down to last December, the month before her death. Dearest heart, missing you too, she wrote. It was Christmas. We had always spent Christmas together. Normie's been here, she wrote, cooking us duck. Delicious. And now we are going to watch Out of Africa. MJ in and out. Toddy came and celebrated with us. I feel blessed. Lots of love. She had also written the day before, on Christmas Eve, recalling the Christmas the four of us, she and Dennis, Jim and me, had spent together in New York. Quote, how lovely that particular Christmas was. Walking along the High Line, such generous and interesting company, sending so much love to you and Jim, Normie coming over and cooking us a chicken. Very low key. I'm still out of breath by walking across the room. God, I hope it's not like this for the rest of my days. T. Tina was mystified by her illness, by why she was not getting better. Quote, still sick as a dog, can't figure out what it is, can't even think straight, promise I'll call as soon as I can. Still in bed and feeling very sorry for myself. I'll call when I'm on the mend. I love you much, and I may be paying you out for not walking with me every day. Not that I can walk. Because Tina still had her hand in life. She didn't want to die. She wasn't ready to die. We had plans. She had plans. I have never known anyone whose mind was so active, so alive, who was so genuinely curious, so in love with life, so willing to go, so ready to go to the furthest reaches of the interior world and to cross time and place in pursuit of whatever sparked her imagination. Always wanting to know, always reading, always wanting to talk about everything. But what moved me personally the most is I've never known anyone whose impulse was so generous. and a generosity that was unshadowed. Anyone whose project she believed in, anyone whose artistic life needed encouragement, Tina was there, without questions. Whatever her resources, her first impulse was to share them. I have never seen anything quite like it. Tina lived her truth. She lived her belief that through the arts we can come into right relationship with ourselves and find a way to live with one another and in the natural world. Who do you know who had the vision and the genius and the persistence to set out on her own and create a unique theater company, to make relationships that have lasted a lifetime, whatever the complications, and who even now has brought us here together to be with her in celebration? So fare thee well, as Shakespeare said, speaking of Cleopatra. Now boast thee death, in thy possession lies, alas, unparalleled. But we also have her. I feel the loss of Tina as a daily vacancy. I reach to text her. My phone dials her number, unaware that she will never answer. But in truth, what I feel more deeply is immense gratitude for a friendship that was, and for me, will always be, unparalleled.
Slight change in program. This is not a day for the impersonal, so I'm going to do something from Tina's book, Women of Will. She was a huge fan of Chris's playing, so he's graciously agreed to come along and play too. Missing is like weather, looping, labile, perpetual. I walk tranquil until memory glances a phrase, and our words, our work, our days, our spilt blood fill the light. Missing lives in the mouths and the eyes of others, tongues too thick, too thin, and cadence falling flat. Memories circle like storms and tide swell. Grief passes, pain dissolves, but the missing endures. Looping, veiled, perpetual.
Why, sir, I trust I may have leave to speak, and speak I will. I am no child, no babe. Your betters have endured me, say my mind, and if you cannot, Bessie, stop your ears. My tongue will tell the anger of my heart, or else my heart concealing it will break, and rather than it shall, I will be free. even to the uttermost, as I please in words. Tina helped me find the words, raise my power, as Dennis helped me connect my madness, and as Kevin had picked me up off the floor down the road at the Nut House. Sorry. Therapeutic community. Tina saw me mid-brain break playing the devil at the Lavender Door and threatened, "You're going to work with me one day." A year and a half later, after being the bar wench, I'm in Tina's group for the intensive vesseling Portia. Upon my knees I charm you, and I declared I hate Brutus. So she makes me play Brutus. In the final scenes, turns out I'm more like Brutus, and you can't hate yourself. I completed my very first acting course after I had attempted 6. I did it because Tina believed in me, and so this company did. Had never felt that completely before. Tina sat at the same level and was vulnerable too. You all were. Didn't blink at the scars, and she showed me the real Will Shakespeare, not the posh twat I learnt in school, who hates women and makes no sense, but a composer who witnessed. A normal man who made mistakes and grew, became enlightened, was redeemed by the daughters. Then Tina and I finally got to play together. I found my brothers and my Prospero. Would giggle in Lennox coffee as I discovered something for the first time within the text. She would pretend it was her first time too. Then get me to expand the discovery while she beamed with that cheeky, mischievous smile, the one you all know very well. Tina told me to do Women of Will. I told her she was funny, blew her off. Pretended to forget. I have several voicemails still that end with a quick reminder of, I still want you to do Women of Will. COVID. Went to her about a one-woman show about suicide. She witnessed, listened, edited, was patient. I gave that up. Had a couple more ideas. She didn't give up. Brought it up again. Tried doing Women of Will. I finally said, fuck it, but I'm not doing it your way. I'm no Tina. You could play the most irresistible Juliet with joyous youth to the exhausted, traumatized Lady Macbeth in a blink of an eye, sandwiched with her knowledge while still keeping the audience's attention. I said, fine, but an hour and 20 at most, and no lecturing. We tried it a couple of years ago. It was magic, but turns out you need the lecturing, and not everyone knows Shakespeare like we do. But I got to study with Tina, fall in love with this mold of a play, ran around her garden, yelling lines while my dog barked and her cats danced, and while she cackled that glorious, inviting laughter, which made you feel like you're the only one conspiring with her. You all know it. Tina said, try again. We did. Tina, Nigel, and I made a pact. We're going to the Edinburgh Festival, all of us. 3 ex-Brits who had left home with some battle wounds, who had a dream of bringing it home. Found a fabulous writer who Tina worked with in creating an honest play that contained her words and Shakespeare in a story that would be inclusive for all, as Tina and Shakespeare had done, just in a new way, set in a pub, a bar wench and a punter, a place where all are welcome. The script arrived January 8th. The next day I got a call from darling Lizzie. Our greatest believer had kicked the bloody bucket, and I crumbled and broke. Lord Tina had too much left to do.
told her she wouldn't go anywhere till it was completed. It was meant to come to Edinburgh. Tina, who roared at me that I had to create, perform, that it was my duty to the world to be a gentle mirror, that it would ensure I lived. Oh, I cracked. Old demons came back. But then they floated away because Tina's damn beliefs started haunting me. So we started working again, doing the hustle. Realised that we all just have to continue her vision. And we are going to Edinburgh this summer. Oh, I'm a snotty mess. Is titled Tina Packer's Woman of Will. A new adaptation by Shifra Drumgour with her co-conspirator, Nigel Gore. Whether it's just the imprints of you or your lingering spirit you're coming along to, there'll be a seat at the bar with your name on it. Thank you for showing me my path, for being louder than the other voices, for showing me how to love Shakespeare as the big brother I always wanted. You both showed the truth for all of us with words in a world where our truth matters and always will. Oh. My stepmom and my dad were very close to Tina as well, and I'm so grateful for my stepmom for introducing me to Tina originally. But they couldn't be here, so they gave me some words to say, which is, woo. We are grateful to Tina for a long list of reasons. Her friendship, her sage advice, her brilliant company, to name but a few. But what really touched us more than anything is the way she took Ella under her wing and let her fly. We know Ella knows this better than anyone. She saw something in Ella, a very bright spark, and nurtured it and protected her without any fuss or fanfare, just steadfast love. We are forever indebted to her for her fierce loyalty to our family and the joy she brought into our lives. To say we will miss her is a huge understatement. A nice meal, good bottle of wine or 6 with her and Dennis, a passionate debate on any subject, but God, how lucky we were if talk turned to Shakespeare. And it always did. We love you, Tina. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Coleman. I wasn't expecting that. Could we thank Tori and Lizzie? Alan, Marty J, Meg, Leslie, the people who worked on our behalf to put this together so we could celebrate Tina Packer. In January, when we had that memorial soon after Tina died, I was out there holding the door open for people who were coming in, and this woman stopped and talked to me and said, "Kristen is dead." Dennis is dead. Tina is dead. And then she cheered up a little bit and said, "You're next." I feel tremendous pride and deep gratitude to be a part of this and company. You are too. So this is the audience participation section of this program. Tina didn't do all of this alone. If you look around the room, she did it with us. If you are one of the earliest teachers, master teachers, directors, designers, administrators, performers, friends and neighbors, financial supporters, hangers-on. Actually, from the earliest years up until this moment, would you please stand up? If you have been a participant in our training programs as an actor, director, scholar, psychologist, psychiatrist, celebrity, or student, would you please stand up? If you have been a part of our education program, a teaching artist, part of the riotous youth or the young company or a fall festival or the tour all over New England or the juvenile court program, would you please stand up? I was at a fundraising event at Wellesley College one time. Tina was speaking. She was reciting Ophelia's little soliloquy after that horrible "get thee to a nunnery" scene. Oh, what a noble mind. You know this piece, yes. And she said, it's a fundraising event. And I that sucked the money of his music vows. Thank you, Tina. If Tina ever approached you to support this company and asked you for money, or you are one of our illustrious volunteers, would you please stand up? It's been mentioned previously. I think it deserves to be mentioned again that in this age of being surrounded by asses, unpolicied, Tina is and will remain our lass unparalleled. Thank you.
The barge she sat in, like a burnished throne, burned on the water. The poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, and so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them. The oars were silver, which to the tune of flutes kept stroke, and made the water which they beat to follow faster, as amorous of their strokes. For her own person, it beggared all description. She did lie in her pavilion, cloth of gold of tissue, over-picturing that Venus where we see the fancy outwork nature. On each side her stood pretty dimpled boys, like smiling cupids with divers colored fans, whose wind did seem to glow the delicate cheeks which they did cool, and what they undid, did. Her gentlewomen, like the Nereides, so many mermaids, tended her in the eyes, and made their bends adornings. At the helm, a seeming mermaid steers. The silken tackles swell with the touches of those flower-soft hands that yarely frame the office. From the barge, a strange, invisible perfume hits the sense of the adjacent wharfs. The city cast her people out upon her, and Antony, enthroned in the marketplace, did sit alone, whistling to the air, which but for vacancy had gone to gaze on Cleopatra too, and made a gap in nature. Upon her landing, Antony sent to her, invited her to supper. She replied it should be better he became her guest, which she entreated. Our courteous Antony, whom ne'er the word of no woman heard speak, being barbered 10 times o'er, goes to the feast, and for his ordinary pays his heart for what his eyes eat only. I saw her once hop 40 paces through the public street, and having lost her breath, she spoke and panted that she did make defect perfection, and breathless power breathed forth. Age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety. Other women clore the appetites they feed, but she makes hungry where most she satisfies. For vilest things become themselves in her, that holy priest bless her when she is riggish.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I'm Tori Rhodes. The extraordinary energy that Tina expended while building Shakespeare and Company. From the building of the company, directing theatrical productions, creating actor training, and caring for the relationships within the Berkshire community, the larger theater community, and the people over the years who have become Shakespeare and Company. Tina cared deeply through the last moments of her life. Yet, one may ask, who cared for Tina? Probably each of you who are here today contributed in some way through conversations, phone calls, or even being active, curious audience members, but I would like to specifically acknowledge the care it takes from a community to help to hold someone the likes of Tina Packer. First, it was the late Dennis Krausnick, her partner in work and home, who saw what Tina needed in order to be Tina, and he did it. Following his death, her care needs changed. As Tina's health challenges grew more complicated in the last few years, a team of friends helped to support her son, Martin Jason Asprey, while he attended grad school, and after, came to live with her at home. Normie Noel, Lizzie Aspenleader, and I stepped in to support him in looking out for her on a regular basis. Normie came to read to her nearly every day and took on a routine of care for her beloved cats. I helped with the domestic tasks, looked out for her nutrition, and generally kept her company. Lizzie served as her additional healthcare proxy over the past few years, accompanying her to doctor's appointments and held her hand in the very last moments of her life. But there was a village of others. Sue Alden, who is up here, I believe, who for decades, where are you, Sue? Will you wave? Oh, I don't see her. Okay, Sue Alden, who for decades kept her house in beautiful order and became a trusting friend. Fran Fowler from Sheer Design. Are you here, Fran? A loving presence who kept her feeling beautiful for all the years she lived in the Berkshires. Catherine Wheeler, her longtime assistant and friend. Thank you, Catherine. Without whom the work she did from her office or from her home would not have been possible. Jane Iredale, a longtime friend, who was one of the very few people who could pop over, tell Tina what to do, and she would actually listen. Annette and Mike Miller. Who provided Tina with their undying support and regularly looked out for her well-being. Muli Dinar, who taught with her, and with his wife Tal Dinar, came from Boston on weekends when any of us could not be with her. Or just to take her for a walk, make her egg on toast, and provide deep, engaging conversation. Sarah Lytle and Sandy Bourgeois, will you wave your hands? Where are you? Over there. Part of our Shakespeare and Company volunteers, board, founder of Shakespeare and Company Oral History Archive Project, who were steadfast friends for years, helping her to attend to the needs of things others could not. Carrie Berry Brogan, who noticed something was amiss one night, drove her to Boston from the Berkshires to get the medical care she needed and deftly navigated the Brigham and Women's Hospital system while serving as her healthcare proxy as she underwent heart surgery in 2021, and who continued to offer her care and intellectual engagement following Tina's knee surgery. Thank you, Carrie. Charlene Sue, who flew from California to care for Tina as she recovered from her heart surgery, and who, as Tina grew frailer, accompanied her in travel throughout the country and around the world. providing Tina with deeply attentive care and that crucial element of creative engagement and intellectual conversation. Trisha Regan, are you here, Trish? Yes, who came to Tina in this last year, stood by her side, encouraging her, guiding her through some of the most difficult days, tasks, and obstacles. Trisha and Tina clicked as if they had known each other for a lifetime. Trisha provided compassion, laughter, and genuine human connection until the last moments of her life. Bonnie Wilson, are you here? And Gina Squires, are you here? Part of Shakespeare and Company's housekeeping team who helped to keep Tina comfortable following her knee surgery during her recovery time in Larry Hall, and who looked out for Tina always during her time at the company. Alan Burrows, our artistic director of Shakespeare and Company, who thoughtfully took the helm for all of the logistical elements of Tina's care. So many of you in the communities of Shakespeare and Company, the Berkshires, her family and friends in England and beyond, she would want you to know how important you were to her fierce will to live and her hope to change the world. Finally, at Normie's urging, I would like to acknowledge Mojo and Isis, her feline companions. These two little creatures, found by Dennis, brought her physical comfort and warmth while at the hospital or recuperating from surgery in the rehabilitation center. She would say, "I just want to go home and be with my cats." Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Tannenbaum. This is Ithaca by Cavafy for Tina. When you start on your journey to Ithaca, then pray the road is a long one, full of adventure, full of discovery. Do not fear the Lastrygonians and the Cyclops and the angry Poseidon. You will never meet such as these on your path if your thoughts remain lofty, if a fine emotion touches your body and your spirit. You will never meet the Lastrygonians, the Cyclops, and the fierce Poseidon if you do not carry them within your soul. Then pray that the road is a long one, that the summer mornings are many, that the summer mornings are many. May there be many summer mornings when, with what pleasure, what joy, you enter harbors seen for the first time. May you stop at Phoenician trading stations to buy fine things, mother of pearl and corals, amber and ebony, and pleasurable perfumes of all kinds. Buy as many pleasurable perfumes as you can. And may you visit many Egyptian cities, and so you may learn and go on learning from their sages. Keep Ithaca in your mind always. To arrive there is your ultimate goal. But do not hurry the voyage at all. Better if it lasts for years. So that you're old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all that you have gained on the way, not expecting to make Ithaca rich. Ithaca has given you this beautiful voyage. Without her, you never would have set out. But she has nothing more to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have deceived you. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you'll have understood by then what these Ithacas mean.
Hello all. Thank you. Thank you everyone who has gone before. I'm closing us out. My name is Courtney B. Vance. I am, thank you so much. Tina Packer was everything to me. Everything I've done, everything I am, I owe to her those 2 summers as an apprentice, summer of '81 and summer of '82. Everything I am and everything I've done, I owe to Tina Packer. I was a lost freshman at Harvard my first semester, and everyone seemed like they knew what they wanted to do. After struggling before I went to college trying to figure it out, I started acting my sophomore year to meet other students, because I thought from meeting and talking to the students, my future would reveal itself. My Aunt Lois came to see the second show I did, Story Theater, and thought I should make a career of it. It was a light bulb moment. Shortly after that, I had a small role in an ART show called Lulu, starring Kathy Slade, who took me under her wing and advised me to apply for a Ford Foundation grant and auditioned to be a summer apprentice at Shakespeare and Company at the Mount. I took a bus up from Cambridge, auditioned in the kitchen of the Mount, while people were cooking and cleaning. You all know the story. I was accepted. I told my girlfriend, and we both ended up there for the next 2 summers that changed our lives for the better. Now let me be completely clear. I knew nothing about acting. I'll say that again. Let me be completely clear. I knew absolutely nothing about acting. I thought acting was doing voices. Hello, I'm James Earl. No, I thought acting was doing voices. I had done maybe 4 plays at Harvard when my 15 fellow apprentices and I found ourselves standing in front of the full Shakespeare and Company family for our introductions. Tina welcomed us and then proceeded to tell us that one by one she would like us to tell the company 2 things she would like everyone to know about us. You know what's coming next. She wanted us to tell the company 2 things we would like everyone to know about us, and then 2 things we don't want everyone to know about us. Needless to say, I wanted to run. The rest of the summer was a blur. We lived communally above the stables. We did a week-long clown workshop with master clown teacher Mary Conway. Which included the Circle of Fire and high-low status exercises. They were all life-changing. Mary, thank you so much. You changed my life in ways I can't even begin to say. We maintained the grounds and the Mount, and in exchange, we were taught by master teachers Kristen Linklater, Susan Dibble, John Haddon, Kevin Cole, Zoe Alexander, Virginia Ness, and others. At the end of the summer, we showed our scenes that we had been working on, but somehow I really struggled with the main tenet of Shakespeare and Company, aligning my emotions with the text. I'll say that again. Aligning my emotions with the text. John, are you all right? Okay, I'm all right. I was so distraught that one night I conquered my absolute fear of the dark and the woods, snuck out of the stables where we stayed, felt my way, literally, about a quarter mile through the woods to the road, ran down the road about a mile, screamed at the top of my lungs for a good 20 minutes, shook a stop sign to the ground, ran back to the grounds, felt my way back to the stables, and slipped into bed. The next morning, as we were all lying on the floor in the dance studio below the stables, touching sound, ha-hum, ha-hum, or sleeping from sheer exhaustion from working the grounds and then doing a show, and I overheard someone say, "Did you hear that moose last night?" Did you hear that moose out there? Boy, that was loud. Who knew that my screaming carried so far and sounded like a moose call? At the end of the summer, it was time to show our scenes, and I was deathly afraid because I was really not getting it. Maybe I was not cut out for this acting thing. And before I knew it, it was my scene partner and Mai's turn, or is that my scene partner and I's turn? Anyway, it was our turn to do the balcony scene from Romeo and Juliet. But when I got to the line, "Oh, blessed, blessed night, all this is but a dream, too flattering sweet to be substantial," it all came together for me. The emotions happening on the text, and all my fellow apprentices and teachers hugged me, Susan Dibble, acknowledging the breakthrough that had just happened. It was a wonderful moment in my life. Maybe this acting thing wasn't so bad after all. By the following summer, Tina's work deepened for me, and instead of our scene work, our master teacher, John Haddon, was directing the apprentices in our own play, Comedy of Errors, in the brand new space built just for us. At least we thought it was built just for us, but of course it wasn't. We were all very, very excited and couldn't wait for the casting to be announced. I was very disappointed when I found out I had been cast as the old man, the father, Aegean. I wanted to be part of the comedy, to be part of one of the two sets of twins. I went to John and asked him why in a comedy I was playing a dramatic part. And he told me, "Courtney, trust me." And I did. And I went to work. Well, something happened. Something happened when I did that role. I inhabited it, dramatically launching our play and my life in completely different directions. I had no idea why John cast me in that role, but Tina knew. Something had changed in me over that summer. Tina's work had marinated in me, so much so that I could now read the phone book and emotionally it would just go right through me. That was not a joke. I was very serious about that. But everyone saw the change, hence John's casting advice, "Trust me." Everything began for me with Tina. Everything began for me with watching her actors/teachers drop in an entire play and seeing her teach/direct while sitting on the audience lawn in a low-slung lawn chair picking at the blades of grass. I have worked with so many wonderful people in my career, but it is Tina Packer who took me when I didn't know who I was. When I was screaming like a moose on a Lenox road at 4 in the morning. At 4 in the morning, and patiently prepared me for everything else I've done in my life. I am the poster child for the transformational power of her work. All that I have done and all that I have accomplished I owe to her. And I came here today to say that to the world. I struggled to find the perfect words to express how much she means to me. Then I realized Stephen Schwartz had already written them in a song called For Good in the Broadway play Wicked, which I saw 9 times. True that. And recently immortalized for all time in the movie Wicked for Good, sung by Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Now, I'm not going to ruin the song by singing it for you, but the words are powerful. Tina, it may be well that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So Tina, let me say, so much of me is made from what I learned from you. Tina, you'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. Tina, I know you have rewritten my story by being my friend. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? Tina, because I knew you, because I knew you. I have been changed for good. Thank you.
I can't say exactly how it began. It just appeared.
Hello, I'm Tina Packer. What I really want to do is do the work.
The directors and teachers at the Shakespeare and Company are some of the best in the world.
The action is totally universal.
It has to do with the intensity of the experience.
Good.
They're all coming together to put together a show that they all care about.
We got sweaty and dirty and hurt in the exploration of that.
I'd never worked on Shakespeare like that before.
Which is the York side? York side's there. Yeah, so we'll enter from that side.
All right, can I see you processing on, please? I had written a play about a highwayman. I was 10 years old or so, and I got to do it at my school. And there was a point where I decided that the whole thing would be enlivened if I leapt off the stage. And I remember running and leaping off the stage, and I thought, people get paid for this? This is what I want to do. I just loved it. So come from stage left, both of them? Yeah. I ran away at 18. It was then when I was at RADA that I really began acting. But they didn't think I was very good at Shakespeare.
Tina, how did you come to establish such an organization?
I always felt that there was something else I wanted to get in Shakespeare, in the performance of Shakespeare, so I started directing Shakespeare plays instead of just acting in them.
I was beginning to understand that words have real depth to them. I call it the atavistic depth of words.
Words, in fact, are much more powerful than we are. They've been around a hell of a lot longer than we have.
I wanted an experience that was deeper in my body, not that I just intellectually understood what was going on. Mitch Berenson was an extraordinary man who helped me found the company.
That which is most indestructible in any venture is the determination of the people who are pushing that venture and the integrity of the work that they're doing.
It was his idea that we should come to the Berkshires, and we drove around and drove past Edith Wharton's house, which was derelict. And so I asked them to stop, and I got out, we looked at this, and I thought, this is where we should be. Dennis came up in front of everybody and got the mount ready.
I felt that there was no place in the country where I could actually do the kind of work that I wanted to do.
Too much.
Too much time, too much.
Too much.
Too much anger,
Too much.
We moved into the mount, we started the theatre company, and the next day the building inspector was down and said, "You can't live here." I mean, it was just great. The foundations of what the company then was based on came out of that year. The idea of passing the work on became a natural part of what we were doing, and the expectation being you'll learn all the basic principles as far as we know them, and now you learn them and now you take them further. I mean, one of the things we did when we first got here to the Mount, Kristen created this thing called sound and movement, which was putting the words all over the body.
Kristen McNater is my friend first. She's the director of training for Shakespeare and Company.
Hi! 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 Does anybody have a line in the scene that has this kind of energy in it?
The company has three kind of legs or foci: performance, training programs. We train actors from all over the world, and education. I had a background in education, so I thought I'll take what I'm learning as an actor, teacher, and a director. I'd like to take that into the schools where students are just reading Shakespeare and find a way to have them start doing Shakespeare. And we've done that for almost 40 years.
Thank you, sweetheart. I think there's real danger in human beings not understanding themselves. I think it leads to racism, sexism, violence on all kinds of levels. What I always used to say was, I want to see how a classical theatre company can affect a community. That was the statement I would make at the beginning. And can it affect a community? And the answer is yes, it blooming well can. When the time came for us to leave, which was extremely painful, we thought, no, we want to stay where our audience is used to coming, and so going just down the road seemed like a really good idea to us.
Here, come here, I want to show you something. Come this way. I sat on the board at the time when we came over here. I was skeptical. I thought it would be too much. Got to go a different way. And it's been a lot. No, this one's open. Come on out here. Yeah, man. So you've got Wooden O Theater, got the Rose Footprint Theater, got the New Spruce Theater, got the Tina Packer Playhouse up there, you got the Elaine Bernstein Theater down there.
You got your Roman Garden Theater right here.
And this is this whole expanse, right, like this. A lot of history, a lot of laughter, a whole lot of potential still.
The ongoing, how are we going to make this work? It's tough. I think you keep going because there's joy in it. There's answers to the big questions in life in it. There's a real sense of community, and there's a sense of ourselves within the community. Okay, let's go again.
I think the people are the most important thing. That sense of what makes people tick, but also what makes people laugh and what makes people care for each other. Tina has entirely encouraged that all along.
She has changed certainly the course of my life, but she's also changed what I'm most proud of in my life.
What's a girl like you doing in a job like this?
Well, when I was a little girl, I thought I'd like to be a scientist, so I became a scientist.
Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name which is no part of thee, take all thyself.
I would say the leaping off the stage at 11 years old gave me the idea of the ecstasy it could be, and that this was worth fighting for. I don't know, me and Will Shakespeare, we've had a good journey. Our revels now are ended. These are actors, as I foretold you, were spirits and are melted into air, into thin air, and like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
Couple people I want to acknowledge again. That's Elizabeth Aspen, leader, and Tory Rhodes. And like so many productions at Shakespeare and Company, this went on a little longer than expected. but Tina would be proud of that. The reason you've been so comfortable these 2.5 hours is to an architect named George Marsh, who designed this theater, and he's sitting right here. Space has contained so much energy through the years. In just a few minutes, we'll go down and inter Tina's ashes over by Dennis's tree. You're welcome to join us for that. If you care to walk across the field, we also have golf carts if you prefer a ride down. I believe the bar is open now, am I right about that? If you want to take a libation down there with you. In your program, you'll see other events that are listed sequentially. Those will now be compacted together in the interest of time. So when you, after the interment of Tina's ashes, then you can come up and take your choice or mingle in and out of any of those events. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.